Well, I was hoping for a 6-cylinder run this weekend, but weather didn't cooperate yesterday, and took longer to work on the modifying the lawnmower motors into horizontal shafts, modifying the oiling system. After this part of the video, I'll show you how I'm doing that. But anyway, I've got 3 of them. These aren't the 3 I'm using, the third one is, but mounted on there mainly for center distances for the intake manifold. Turns out that it's actually the distance between the angle supports, of course, since that's what's, this stays fixed, and you know, anyway. So I got that settled and how far out it comes, and so this one here, it's nice that my my heater hose just happens to fit the intake pipe properly, so I'll put a hose clamp on there, and then I'll come out the same way I did on this side, with a 1/2-inch steel pipe inside, then a thread cut off elbow welded, and because I actually use the, I'll show you one here, that's a piece of thread that I cut off the elbow. I run a tap through it to cut the threads larger, and then I use it, grind a couple notches in it for hitting with a chisel or screwdriver, and use it for a nut to hold the mufflers in place, otherwise they'll rotate down flat. Something. Hopefully that works. That doesn't work, I'll have to build something out from a head bolt to hold it. But yeah, so that's where I am in the process of assembling the 3 motors for this side. I say I've been working on the oiling system, so then I'll have to you know, throw crankshafts and pistons and all that in it. I lap the valves and all that, make sure they're sparking so that I don't have any surprises when I go to gang it together into a flat 6. So that's my plan for this week, is to get the 3 motors assembled on here and hopefully get a run out of it. I think my my starter that I used last week for the 3 hopefully should work on the 6. It worked on my 4-cylinder years back, and it's about the same cubic inch displacement as 6 of these, so everything hopefully should work out. So this next part of the video is where I show how I was modifying the oiling system. So anyway, thanks again for watching and for your interest, and I'll continue working on this to get another run out of it. So just working on convert my lawnmower engines over to run horizontal shaft. So this end cover here is from a 3-horse Briggs horizontal shaft, so I've been trying to duplicate it. I'll just point out some features here. So you got a groove at the top here on the camshaft. It goes all the way back to a feed, and then it looks like kind of a drain over here, another groove on the left side. And then you got a V trough there that the oil would flow in and feed it. So you got this little feed notch here. Okay, and then on the crankshaft, you got this V cast in here, and it feeds down into this notch. I'll show you there, it's notch, and that leads almost all the way through the bearing. There's a 1/16 inch or so that it doesn't. Then you've also got this drain, but the drain doesn't connect to that. It connects to the passage between the cover and the oil seal. I can show you better on one of my lawnmowers here. I'll use this one. Yeah, it connects right there. So anyway, so I'm trying to duplicate this. And before I forget, I'll show what I did on the crankcase itself here. Sorry, yeah, the engine block, what have you. So basically on the lawnmower, this area right here feeds the oil up from the paddle wheel. So there's that little plug on the outside. It's right here. So I pounded that plug out with a hammer and chisel from the inside. It's like a short nail. Got it out, and then drilled and tapped 1032, I believe it is, and cut a 1-inch bolt and screwed it in and JB welded it. And unfortunately, a little bit of the JB got in there, and I have to sand that out. But for the crankshaft to go in, so that's all you have to do to the engine block if it's built this way. And the other thing, you add this dipper to the crankshaft. That's a standard 3-horse horizontal dipper. Luckily, the connecting rod on the 3.5 horse Briggs push mowers is the same as the connecting rod in the 3-horse horizontals. Anyway, so here's my lawnmower crankcase cover. So what I've done on it, I ground a slot in there. The slot was on this side. So the first thing I did, I plugged that up with JB weld, ground it flush. Same thing here. This was the feed on the crankshaft. I put in JB weld to plug it, since it's going to sit this way and it would drain out there instead of fill. Then I ground the feed slot there and JB welded to the side of it. Going to build that up a bit more to try to make a V there to feed. Now I also ground the feed slot in the crankshaft hole there. Again, took it almost all the way to the bottom. I stopped about 1/16 to an 1/8 to a 1/16 short. You don't want to go all the way. And I've also drilled in this 1/8-inch drain hole at the bottom. When I did the go-kart engine 10 years or so ago, like 15, but it's on YouTube video still, vertical to horizontal conversion. I didn't drill that drain slot in there, and eventually that engine gulled up the bushing there. So I'm hoping this time to prevent that. I have a little more understanding of how the system works now. So anyway, I grind this slot in here to feed, and here I put some JB, and I also have a gusset here made out of aluminum that goes in like that. So I'm trying to make a feed V, actually not quite like that, close enough there. Because you have like a tornado of oil swirling around here from the top, you go clockwise. So the oil comes up, hits, drops down in the feed slot, and then into the bearing. That's the intention anyway. So here's one that's JB welded in. Now, unfortunately, I cut the slot before I decided to do this, so I've got to recut it so that it'll actually feed there off of the slope plate. And this one I got more JB by the cam there, so it's getting built up. And then I got to put the oil seal back in the end. So that's mainly what I've been working on this week, is solving the oiling problems on my lawnmower conversions to horizontal shaft. And the reason I'm going through this much trouble is that on my H12 there, the engine will sit this way, and the exhaust comes out the center, which I really don't like, but it's nothing I can do about it. But on the lawnmower, the intake is on the right hand side, so that'll put the carburetor out here on the outside of the motor. I'll have to deal with the exhaust being inboard, but I can figure that out. So otherwise I would have carburetors down the middle of the motor, right by the timing shaft there, so that wouldn't work out so well. So anyway, that's how I'm converting these vertical shaft motors to horizontal, as well as putting the shim in the end of the camshaft there to replace the dipper that sits here. I just have a shim so the camshaft end play stays the same. Now I'll just add one more thing about this drain hole here and what I've learned. So there's this tornado of oil getting splashed, so it collects in here, drips down in the bearing, and then it gets fed to the back, so it spreads the whole bearing surface, but it doesn't really have anywhere to go. So they put this drain hole in so that there's a flow of oil, because the oil not only lubricates, it also carries away heat. So you want the oil to flow, kind of like an oil pump feeding it, so it carries away heat from the bearing. So in mine before, it didn't carry the heat away. So that's probably a contributing factor on why it eventually galled up that bushing there on the crankshaft. And then you have unlike a lawnmower, you have the chain tension pulling down on it, so it's you know, loading the bearing more heavily. On more expensive go-kart motors, they put a ball bearing on there to take the load. It's a lot better and has less friction. So anyway, that's enough on that subject.